notebook. I think it's pretty good. They do a good job there. Just so you know, here's everybody can say hi to Kamryn. Say hi to Kamryn. She's watching. Okay, nobody say hi to Kamryn. That's fine. Okay, and then on page 87, and I have the one thing I would add to the document or the picture on page 87 is the information I have up here on the difference between the autonomic and somatic, peripheral and central nervous system. Because I just think it helps. All right, so on Thursday and Friday, we'll have a relay race between classes. We'll see which class can pass information the quickest through all the students. All right, but my nervous system is divided into two parts, central and peripheral. Central is my processing part, okay? And peripheral is input output. And I think that's the easy way to kind of understand them. All right, so in every interaction that I have with my environment, every behavior, I have an input, I have a processing, and I have an output, okay? You taking notes right now, you're listening and you're looking, okay? So you're using hearing and seeing. Then you're processing what you want to write down, and then you're sending that to your hand to write the notes that you want, okay? All right, now we're going to go down the orange side of the book. So my peripheral nervous system is divided further into my somatic and my autonomic. Somo means body, and basically the book does a good job there. That's all my voluntary movements. So when I voluntarily, when I walk, I talk, I play a sport, play an instrument. If I writing right now would be a somo or somatic movement. And autonomic is involuntary, okay, or automatic. So we talked about reflex earlier. A reflex would be an autonomic, okay, you don't control it. But also you have tons of stuff within internal workings of your body in which is controlled by my autonomic nervous system. Like you don't have to tell yourself to breathe. Well, if you have anxiety, you might, but you will breathe. Okay, you don't have to tell yourself to digest your food, to circulate blood through your body. Those are all done autonomically. Those are outputs that are controlled internally by my nervous system that I don't have to think about. Okay, I heard Alzheimer's, and at later times in Alzheimer's, in the severe stages of it, you kind of lose your autonomic nervous system, forgets to do things, some of those autonomic things. Okay, and then the last part, which is very important. Okay, which is why I have it circled, and we will refer to these two divisions of the nervous system quite a bit, and that is my sympathetic and my parasympathetic nervous system, okay, which are part of my autonomic. Okay, so sympathetic is my arousing or my fight or flight. Most of you know it as fight or flight. Okay, so this is going to give me a shot of adrenaline, correct, which accesses it through my adrenal gland in the endocrine system, okay? Parasympathetic is my calming, okay? So that's the one that just calms me down, relaxes me, kind of mellows me out, okay? Now, here's what you need to know, which is very important. Normally, we are right in the middle. So as you sit here in class today, neither one of these are probably on. You're just in your state of what we call homeostasis, which is internal balance, which is oddly enough controlled by your hypothalamus. And it's different for all of us. But generally right now, and as you go throughout the day, you're not having either one of these. It's also important to know, do you have adrenaline pretty much in your body almost all the time? Yeah, now it's very low, right, when you wake up in the morning, and then it accumulates and then it goes down so that you can go to sleep at night. Adrenaline will not help you go to sleep. Now, if I am threatened, okay, if I am afraid, if I am going to play a sport, or I'm getting ready to give a speech or play an instrument or whatever, my sympathetic's going to kick on, right? Okay, because it's fight or flight, I'm going to get a shot of adrenaline and a whole bunch of other chemicals, which we'll talk about. Once the threat is over, then my parasympathetic will kick on to kind of calm me down, okay? And then it will reestablish me in homeostasis, okay, in the middle. All right, that's the way it's supposed to work. Now, if it doesn't work that way, we get psychological issues. We also can have physical issues. So, hypothyroidism, okay? But what would be a psychological issue if my sympathetic stays on? Or it's on too much? Okay, very good. So would it affect my attention? Yeah, so I could have ADD, ADHD. What was over there? Anxiety, yeah. Anxiety is a big one. Okay. Would I be able to sleep? No. Okay. So insomnia would be big here on this side as well. Okay. Now, what issues would I have if I'm too calm? And this is where I stay. Yeah, this is depression over here. Okay. Also, it could be narcolepsy. So it could be other types of sleep disorders in which I'm tired all the time. Okay. And then if you've heard of bipolar, correct? Are bipolar people on each one? They're never here in the middle, right? They're always one or the other. Generally, they're here until they run out of energy, and then they'll slip down in here because you can actually run out of energy here.
Most of the time, anxiety and depression go hand in hand. How does that?
They do, because they're the same chemicals. Yeah. So as we learn, so they involve norepinephrine, which is adrenaline in my brain, dopamine and serotonin. Okay. And so generally what's going to happen is, yeah, the problem is that you just don't set here. And so you'll be here, and generally you're there until you kind of gas yourself out, and then you're going to have a period of depression shortly. So yeah. So same chemical mechanisms. Yeah. Which we'll study when we get to abnormal, which is very, very good insight. Okay. Which is why I can use, again, anti-anxiety to treat depression. I can use antidepressants to treat anxiety. Okay. All right. Okay. Any questions on that? Are we good? Okay. So that's 4 and 5. Okay. All right. So let's go over part 2 of your lab up here. And then we'll be done. Now, again, the lab's not due till November 6th, which that'll be the earliest that we take the quiz. Okay. Part 1 was diagram your family and then write down anything that genetically influences you, good or bad. So that's going to be the nature side. So now we're going to map the nurture side. Okay. So, which will be environmental influences in the family. All right. And I'm just going to have you map for 3 things. So if you really map psychologically, I think there's up to 25 codes you could actually map for. All right. But we're going to map anywhere there's conflict in my family, anywhere that there's alignment, which basically means people are just naturally close to each other or have a connection. And then if there's any boundaries that are set up, which are kind of like natural divisions. Okay. So conflict can be between one person or 2 people. All right. Or a group of people. So if I have here, so if there's conflict in my main family, it's between my brother and my mom. My uncle Don, who's the black sheep of the family, he had conflict with this entire whole side of the family. Okay. So that's how you would do it with groups. Okay. Alignment means that you kind of have a natural connection with. All of you are aligned to one parent or the other. It's just a natural psychological occurrence. That doesn't mean that you don't have a good relationship with the other parent. I always tell kids, they go, well, I'm not aligned. I said, okay, you're off at college. Who's the parent that you probably would call? And that's probably who you're aligned to. You just naturally would call that parent. Okay. I am aligned to my mom. We have kind of the same personality. My brother's aligned to my dad. I know my daughter is aligned to me. My son is aligned to my wife, and that's mainly because our personalities are very similar as well. So, that could play a big part of it. All right. And then you can be aligned to, more than one person as well. I was aligned to my mom, to my brother, to my grandfather. Okay. And then boundaries are when there's natural divisions. Who has an older sibling away in college? Okay. So they would have a boundary around themselves. Okay. Because they're off, right? Because distance makes them just have a boundary on their own. So they're kind of removed from the family just by location or distance. Okay. So you can have a boundary around yourself. You can also have a boundary around a family, a whole side of a family. Okay. So my mom, since my brother or my uncle Don was gone a lot, my mom aligned with her older brother, and they had a boundary around themselves because they were the only children really left in the family. And then this whole family had a boundary because he was outside of it. Okay. So boundaries can be good or bad. It just basically means that you're it's separated, or they're their own little kind of group or set, if you will, within the family. Okay. Now, and then I have a lot of students who actually map out their relationships because, again, teenage relationships are pretty turbulent. And what you're going to find and what you can see if you do this is, everybody heard of the dreaded relationship triangle, okay, which can happen in relationships. So if you have 3 or more and everybody's aligned to each other, and if there's conflict between 2, does it affect everybody else? Yeah, and you got to be careful that you don't get pulled in. Like here, I'm aligned to my mom and my brother. Okay, but most of my family conflict is between those 2. So do I have to be careful that I don't get pulled into the conflict, which is generally what I will be asked to do, pick a side, or whatever. Not only that, here's the challenge, which you got to do. If you have multiple friends in your groups, if you can map all the triangles, can you possibly find out the person that's in every triangle? And then what does that say about that person or that friend? Yeah, they are toxic. They're high maintenance. Okay. So you can call them your triangle friend or whatever you want to do. Okay. So, but you can find out who that person is. And you can also probably see that within your family as well, especially if you have a bunch of siblings or whatever, you can find the individual that's in every triangle. Okay. Okay. So that's part 2. And then don't forget on the lab, you have 2 questions that you need to answer then as well. So I think it's 3 examples of nature, nurture, and then label whether those are a high adaptive value or a low adaptive value. Okay. So don't forget to do that. So this is the second part. This is it. This will be the map. Okay, so you're done, and then you can just write down your 1, 2, 3 on the side over here and turn that in. Okay. All right, are we good? Okay, we'll stop there, and then Kamryn, here is the code word assignment. So you want to go through your vocab list on page 145. Your hint word is nurture. So there's 9 hit words, and then try to stay away from your bad words, which would be biological words. Okay. All right, you have a question? Are we good? If you have a question, chat me.
I found out on Friday that my dad has another sister that I didn't know about.
Oh, another good reason to do a genogram.
But I don't know how to add her to this.
Under where your dad is?
But my dad's dad has already been put on here with 2 different marriages. So I don't know how to add a third one.
I had a friend, or no, it was a student who was telling me that they actually found out that they had a